Alright, in today's video, we're going to be discussing how to do manual backups within StockTrac. And we're also going to be discussing some best practices when it comes to doing backups for StockTrac and what are some of the best ways to manage your backups and keep them safe. So to begin with though, we're going to go into Toolbox. It's a little separate program from StockTrac that deals with behind the scenes stuff. The password, you can use any of your regular StockTrac passwords to log into it. And you'll see you have backup right here. This is where you're going to launch your manual backup. But first, before we get into that, you're going to want to set up your default backup locations. And to do that, again, as you saw there, you go into Setup and then Defaults. Now, in this default window right here, this is where you pick the location for where the backup file is going to go. As you can see here, I only have one location, on the C drive, and labeled STWin3 backup. Now, you have two subsequent locations that you can set up in here as well. And that can be either another computer on the network, or it can be another portable media device, such as a thumb drive or external hard drive. So to set these up, the first thing you're going to set up is the backup file name, which is the default location where a backup is going to be run. So click on that little file folder and then you select where you want the file to go and what the file is going to be called. So in this case it's on the C drive and this is the file name I gave it. So once you set that up, just click open. And then for every subsequent file location, the copy to folder 1, you click on the file here. It doesn't give you the option to enter in a name because that's already been set up. But this is where you get to select the alternate location for that. And that could be, on the C drive, or if you have a thumb drive or some sort of portable media, you can do it there. You can do it on something in your network. It just gives you the option to select two different locations where, when you run the backup, where an alternate copy of the backup is sent to. So that's where you set up your defaults, and I'll show you how that shows up within the system itself. If you click on the backup, there we have our defaults right here. Just our regular C drive backup right there. And then again, you have your copy folder 1, 2. If I had entered anything in the defaults in the other screen, it would have shown up here. Now, here you can manually adjust this. Say you have another media device you want to run a quick backup to. You can just plug it in and then right from here select the location. But it's not going to be stored. The default ones, when you set up your defaults, that's where every time you click on backup, those file locations are going to show up here. Now, you may notice there's the exclude.old files. This is just a time and space saver. The .old files are just copies of tables that are within the system that are used for data recovery. So they're not necessary for the program to run. So if you want to save yourself time and space with this backup, you can just click exclude.old files and those files will not get backed up. Now again, the .old files are not necessary for the program to run. They're just kind of like data recovery within the tables themselves. So not terribly important. Now, once you're ready to run your backup, you're going to want to make sure you have StockTrac closed on all your machines. So exit out of point of sale, main menu, all that stuff. Just make sure it's shut down. And then once you're there, just go ahead and click backup. It's going to run. Now, this process usually takes a couple minutes, depending on how fast your computer is. It could take 5 minutes, it could take 10 minutes. So, but while this is running, I'm going to take this opportunity to talk to you about best practices when it comes to backups. Now, when it comes to backups, you can never have too many backups. It's always good to have multiple backups of your program. That's why we have, the backup file name, location, your primary one, and then you have two subsequent folders you can copy it to. Now, in terms of best practices, you're going to want to send one of those, a copy of your backup to some sort of removable storage device, whether it's a thumb drive or it's an external hard drive, something that you can plug into your computer, run the backup, and then just disconnect it. Because you don't want every copy of your backup held within your network. Here's one simple reason why. We've been getting a lot of instances of cryptoviruses. And what happens with a cryptovirus is it's a program that's designed to encrypt all of the data on your computer. But not just all the data on your computer, anything that's connected to your network is vulnerable to it. So any of your other computers that are connected to the network can get encrypted too. And so if your backup is only stored within devices connected to your network or to the computer in question itself, such as a thumb drive or external hard drive, that data is at risk of being encrypted as well. So in terms of best practices, this is what I recommend. Going out and purchasing at least 2 thumb drives. They don't have to be big. 4 gigabytes will be fine. In fact, that's more than what you need. Typically, a backup is about half a gig, roughly, depending on how much data you have in your system. So recommend getting at least 2 thumb drives, and what you want to do with that is you want to alternate every other day, swapping out those thumb drives. So say on Monday, close the day, you're ready to run your backup, you put in thumb drive 1. You run your backup so that way the backup goes to that thumb drive. Once it's all done, you eject the thumb drive and put it someplace safe, a lockbox, some sort of storage device, anything like that. Just make sure it stays safe. And so in number 2, make sure it doesn't stay plugged into the computer. Run the backup, plug it in, run the backup, disconnect it. And then the next day on Tuesday, you take your second thumb drive, put it in there, run your backup, and then again, you disconnect it and put it someplace safe. And then on Wednesday, you start the cycle over again. Put in thumb drive 1, run the backup, disconnect, put it someplace safe. Thursday, the next day, thumb drive 2, and so on and so on. So that way you're alternating the backup. And therefore, you have 2 good backups of your StockTrac that are not connected to your computer or your system and are ready at a moment's notice. And the thing about thumb drives is they're not always reliable. Sometimes they fail. Sometimes they get stolen. Sometimes they get lost. They get broken, what have you. So it's always good to have multiple thumb drives with multiple copies of your backup. And the benefit to this is, say one of those thumb drives goes bad, well, at worst, if you have 2 of them, you are only out maybe 1 day's worth of data. And that is much better than losing years worth of data, which has happened to shops before. So in this video again, I gave you a demonstration of how to run a manual backup of StockTrac from the Toolbox, where to set the default file locations, and then how to run the backup. And also gave you, again, an example of a best practice when it comes to doing your backups. So thank you very much for watching and listening. I encourage you to check out some of our other videos on this YouTube channel, and have a good day.